Admiral Kira watched the lights go out one by one on her tactical screen. Each light was a ship. Each ship held 1,000 souls, and they were dying faster than she could count. She stood on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Dawn, her 4 eyes fixed on the display that showed nothing but death. The Drakh Collective had broken through the defensive line at Valora 9. 300 warships had held that line for 6 hours. Now they were gone, scattered into pieces across the cold void of space. Her second-in-command, a tall and slender Fenari named Len, walked toward her with shaking legs. His pale blue skin had turned almost white with fear. "Admiral," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "The outer colonies have begun evacuation. Our calculations show we have perhaps 10 rotations before the collective reaches the core worlds. 10 rotations. 10 days until the heart of their civilization would burn." Kira's mandibles clicked together in frustration. She had served the Galactic Union for 40 years. She had fought pirates, rebels, and border conflicts. But nothing had prepared her for the Drakh. The Drakh Collective was not like other enemies. They did not want territory. They did not want resources. They did not want power or glory or revenge. They wanted only one thing. They wanted to feed. The Drakh were a hive species. Billions of creatures sharing one mind, one hunger, one purpose. They moved from system to system, planet to planet, consuming everything. Forests, oceans, cities, people. Nothing remained after the Drakh passed through. They left behind only empty rocks floating in space. No one had ever stopped them. No one had ever slowed them down. And now they were coming for the Union. "Have we received any responses from our allies?" Kira asked, though she already knew the answer. Len shook his head. "The Corvani have declined to assist. They are pulling their fleets back to defend their home system. The Shen have sealed their borders completely. They say they cannot risk their people for a war that is already lost. And the Forans? The Telani? The Telani? Silent, Admiral. Everyone is silent." Kira turned away from her officer and looked out at the stars. Somewhere, out there, the Drakh were moving closer. Millions of organic ships, each one grown from living tissue, each one carrying thousands of hungry creatures. They would reach Valora Prime in days, then the inner colonies, then the capital. And no one was coming to help. The Galactic Union had stood for 2,000 years. It had united 37 species under one banner of peace and cooperation. Now, when the Union needed them most, every single ally had abandoned them. Almost every ally. There was one species left. One civilization that still existed. Isolated and alone. Far from the rest of the galaxy. A species that had been locked away 200 years ago. Quarantined. Forbidden from contact with other worlds. Kira had studied them when she was young. Every military officer did. They were taught about them as a warning. A lesson about what could happen when a species evolved for war instead of peace. The humans. Kira still remembered the footage from the Unification Wars. She remembered watching humans fight each other with weapons so terrible that entire continents burned. She remembered seeing their ships tear through enemy fleets with tactics that no sane species would ever use. She remembered the death counts. The horror. The absolute refusal to surrender. No matter how hopeless the situation became. The galaxy had decided that humans were too dangerous, too violent, too unpredictable. So they had locked them away in their home system, surrounded by patrol stations and warning beacons. For 2 centuries, humanity had been left alone, forgotten by a galaxy that feared them too much to destroy them and trusted them too little to set them free. Now Kira was thinking about opening that cage. "Admiral?" Len stepped closer, concern in his voice. "You have grown very quiet." "I am thinking about monsters, Len." "Monsters? The Drakh are monsters. We cannot stop them. Our weapons are not strong enough. Our ships are not fast enough. Our soldiers are not fierce enough. Kira turned to face her officer. What do you do when you cannot defeat a monster? Len's eyes widened as understanding dawned. Admiral. No. You cannot be serious. What choice do we have? The humans are quarantined for a reason. The things they did during their wars were crimes against existence itself. They created weapons that poisoned entire planets. They burned cities, filled with their own kind. They are not civilized. They are not rational. They are exactly what we need. Kira walked to the communication station and placed her foreleg on the console. Her heart was beating fast. Both of her hearts. Actually, she could feel them pounding in her chest as she prepared to do something no one had done in 200 years. Open a channel to the Sol system, she ordered. Contact the humans. The bridge fell silent. Every officer stopped what they were doing and stared at their admiral. Some of them looked confused. Others looked horrified. A few looked like they might be sick. Len grabbed her arm. Admiral, please, think about what you are doing. Even if they agree to help us, how do we know they will not turn on us afterward? How do we know they will not be worse than the Drac? Kira gently removed his hand. We do not know, Len. We do not know anything about what will happen next, but I do know one thing. She looked at the tactical display, where more lights were going dark every minute. If we do not call them, we die. All of us. Every species in the Union. Every planet. Every child. She turned back to the communication console. So we call them. We call the humans. And we pray to whatever gods still listen, that we have not just traded one extinction for another. The communication officer, a young Korath named Ven, looked at her with trembling hands. Admiral, the channel is open. What should I say? Kira straightened her uniform and stared at the screen. Somewhere on the other side of the galaxy, a species of warriors was waiting. They had been waiting for 200 years. Tell them the Galactic Union requests their help. Tell them we are dying. Tell them we will give them anything they want if they save us. She paused and closed her eyes. Tell them we are sorry. The message was sent. The stars continued to burn, and Admiral Kira waited for the monsters to answer. Commander Han Te was drinking coffee when the message arrived. It was terrible coffee, made from beans grown in the hydroponic farms of Mars, but it was the only coffee humanity had now. 200 years of quarantine meant no trade with other worlds. No new foods. No new technology. No new anything. He sat in the captain's chair of the patrol vessel Iron Wolf, a small ship that spent its days circling the edge of the Sol quarantine zone. His job was simple. He watched the border. He made sure no human ships tried to leave. And he waited for orders that never came. Then the console in front of him made a sound it had never made before. An incoming transmission. From outside the quarantine zone, Tay set down his coffee and stared at the screen. He read the message once, then twice, then 3 times. Lieutenant Yuna, he called to his communications officer. Come. Look at this. Yuna walked over and read the message. Her face went pale. Is this real? She asked. The encryption codes match. It came through official Galactic Union channels. But that is impossible. The Union has not spoken to us in 2 centuries. They hate us. Tay leaned back in his chair and looked at the message again. It was from someone called Admiral Kira. It described a war against something called the Drac Collective. It talked about millions of deaths and entire planets being consumed. It ended with 4 words that Tay never thought he would see from the galaxy that had abandoned his people. We need your help. Get me a secure channel to Admiral Kira, Tay ordered. And wake up the rest of the crew. I think things are about to get very interesting. 20 minutes later, a holographic image appeared on the bridge. Admiral Kira was tall and insect-like, with 4 eyes and long limbs that clicked against the floor when she moved. Her uniform was covered in medals and symbols that Tay did not recognize. Commander Han Te, she said. Thank you for responding. Admiral Kira. Tay did not smile. I received your message. You say you need our help. Yes. The Drak Collective has broken through our defenses. Our fleet is destroyed. Our allies have abandoned us. We estimate that, without intervention, the Collective will reach our core worlds within 10 rotations. And you thought of us. Kira hesitated. Yes. Interesting. Tay stood up from his chair and walked closer to the hologram. Tell me, Admiral, 200 years ago, your Union decided that humanity was too dangerous to exist among the stars. You locked us in our home system. You surrounded us with patrol ships and warning beacons. You told the entire galaxy that we were monsters who should never be trusted. I am aware of our history. Are you? Because I want to make sure you understand what you did to us. Tay's voice was calm, but there was fire behind his eyes. You cut us off from everything. No trade, no communication, no contact with any other civilization. For 200 years, we have watched the galaxy move forward, while we stayed frozen in place. Classed. Abauto. Commander. We could not buy medicine from other worlds. We could not share knowledge or culture. Our children grew up believing that they were prisoners in their own solar system, punished for crimes that happened before they were born. Tay stepped even closer. And now, when your civilization is burning, you suddenly remember that we exist. You suddenly decide that maybe those monsters might be useful after all. Admiral Kira was silent for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was heavy with something that might have been shame. You are correct, Commander. What we did to your people was cruel. We acted out of fear, and we made your entire species suffer for the actions of a few. I cannot change the past. I cannot undo 200 years of isolation. Then why should we help you? Because the Drak will not stop with us. Kira's 4 eyes met Tay's too. They are not interested in politics or history. They do not care that you were quarantined. When they finish consuming the Union, they will come for you next. Your system. Your planets. Your people. Tay said nothing. I know you have every reason to hate us, Kira continued. I know you could sit behind your border and watch us die. And perhaps that would be justice. But I have studied your species, Commander. I have read your history, your stories, your legends. And what did you learn? I learned that humans do not abandon those in need, even when they should, even when it costs them everything. Kira's voice softened. Your people have fought countless wars among yourselves. Terrible wars. Wars that make other species sick to think about. But in those same histories, I found something else. I found humans running into burning buildings to save strangers. I found humans diving into freezing water to rescue drowning children. I found humans standing in front of tanks to protect people they had never met. She paused. You are violent. You are dangerous. You are everything the galaxy feared. But you are also brave beyond reason. You protect those who cannot protect themselves. It is written in your blood. Tay turned away from the hologram. He walked to the viewport and looked out at the stars. Somewhere beyond those stars, billions of creatures were dying. Entire civilizations were being erased from existence. And the galaxy that had imprisoned his people was begging for salvation. He thought about his father, who had died dreaming of a day when humans could walk among the stars again. He thought about his sister, who taught children about planets they would never visit. He thought about every human who had looked up at the night sky and wondered why they had been left behind. If we come, Tay said slowly, we do not come as servants. We do not take orders from your admirals or follow your rules. I understand. We come as equals, full members of your union, with all the rights and freedoms that implies. Agreed. Tay turned back to face Admiral Kira. Then I will bring this to the Human Council. You will have your answer within 1 rotation. He reached for the console to end the transmission, then stopped. Admiral, One more thing. Yes? If this is a trap, if this is some kind of trick to destroy us, know that we will make you regret it. We may be prisoners, but we have not forgotten how to fight. I know, Kira said quietly. That is what I am counting on. The transmission ended. Tay stood alone on the bridge, staring at the empty space where the hologram had been. Then he picked up his coffee and smiled. Wake the wolves, he said. It is time to hunt. The human council met in the old war bunker beneath the mountains of Korea. It was a place built for emergencies, carved into solid rock by people who understood that sometimes the only way to survive was to hide. General Bora stood at the center of the round table, surrounded by the most powerful people in human civilization. There were presidents and prime ministers, admirals and generals, scientists and diplomats. All of them had come to discuss one question. Should humanity answer the call? The Union abandoned us, said President Kang, an old man with white hair and sharp eyes. They locked us away like animals. Why should we risk our lives to save them? Because if we do not, we die anyway, Bora replied. She pressed a button, and a holographic map appeared above the table. It showed the galaxy, with a dark stain spreading across one side. The Drak Collective does not negotiate. It does not make treaties. It consumes everything in its path. If the Union falls, we are next. Our defenses are strong, said Admiral Moon. We have spent 2 centuries building weapons. We can fight them here. Can we? Bora zoomed in on the dark stain. Tiny dots moved within it, too many to count. The Drak have destroyed 300 Union warships in less than a day. The Union had the most advanced technology in the galaxy. We have been stuck with 200-year-old equipment. Then what chance do we have out there? Kang asked. Bora smiled. It was not a nice smile. We have something the Union does not have, sir. We have 200 years of anger. And we have weapons that the rest of the galaxy is too civilized to use. She changed the display. Now it showed a laboratory deep beneath the surface of Mars. Scientists in protective suits were working with strange containers that glowed with soft blue light. Project Nightmare, Bora said. We started it 50 years ago, when we realized that the quarantine might not last forever. We studied every species in the galaxy, including the Drak. We learned how they think, how they communicate, how they share one mind across billions of bodies. And, Kang leaned forward, and we found their weakness. Bora pulled up a new image. It showed a Drak creature, a twisted thing of claws and teeth and hunger. But inside its head, highlighted in red, was a small organ. This is their neural connector. Every Drak has one. It links them to the collective, lets them share thoughts and commands instantly. Without it, they are just animals. Dangerous, yes, but blind and stupid. You want to destroy these connectors? Better. Bora's smile grew wider. We want to poison them. We have created a virus that attacks the neural connectors directly. It does not kill the Drak. It does something worse. It gives them nightmares. The room was silent. The virus spreads through their mental link, Bora continued. One infected Drak will spread it to thousands. Within hours, the entire collective will be trapped in a waking nightmare. They will see things that are not there. They will attack each other. They will forget how to fly their ships or fight their enemies. That is, President Kang searched for the right word. That is horrifying. Yes, sir. Biological weapons are banned under the Galactic Accords. We never signed those accords, sir. We were never given the chance. Kang stared at her for a long moment. Then he looked around the table at the other leaders. Some of them looked scared. Some of them looked sick. But all of them looked determined. How many ships do we have? Kang asked. 47 combat-ready vessels, Admiral Moon answered, plus transport and support craft. 47 ships against 6,000. The odds are not important, Bora said. We do not need to destroy the Drak fleet. We just need to get close enough to release the virus. Once it spreads, the Union can finish them off. And if it fails, then we die fighting instead of hiding." Bora stood straight and looked the president in the eyes. "Sir, our people have been caged for 200 years. We have watched the galaxy from behind bars, dreaming of the day we could walk among the stars again. This is that day. This is our chance to prove that humanity deserves a place in the universe." Kang was quiet for a long time. The other leaders watched him, waiting for his decision. Finally, he nodded. "Send the wolves," he said. "Show the galaxy what they locked away." 3 days later, the human fleet gathered above Earth. 47 ships, each one painted black with a single red stripe along its hull. They were not beautiful ships. They were not elegant or graceful. They were built for one purpose only: war. General Bora stood on the bridge of the carrier Hammer of Soul, the largest ship in the fleet. Around her stood her senior officers. Colonel Jin Hyuk, a tall man with scars on his face from a training accident. Commander Nari, a woman who had spent her entire career preparing for a battle that might never come. Fleet Tactician Day, a quiet genius who could see patterns in chaos. "The jump coordinates are locked in," Hyuk reported. "The fleet is ready." Bora looked at the view screen. Earth hung below them, blue and green and beautiful. The planet where humanity had been born. The planet they had nearly destroyed with their wars. The planet they had learned to love again during their long imprisonment. "Send a message to the fleet," Bora ordered. "Tell them this. For 200 years, the galaxy called us monsters. They said we were too dangerous, too violent, too wild to be trusted." She paused. "Today, we prove them right." She sat down in her command chair and gripped the armrests. "Jump." The stars stretched into lines of light. The ships vanished from Earth orbit, and humanity went to war. When they emerged from hyperspace at the Valoran front, they found exactly what they expected. Thousands of Drakh ships filled the void, organic and terrible, surrounded by clouds of smaller fighters. The Union fleet, or what was left of it, was falling back toward the inner planets. Admiral Kira's voice came through the communication system. "Human fleet, this is Admiral Kira. We are grateful for your arrival, but there are so few of you." Quote, Bora smiled. "There are enough," she said. "Now watch and learn how monsters fight." The Hammer of Soul turned toward the enemy. Its crew did not pray for mercy. They did not hope for survival. They simply checked their weapons and waited for orders. The wolves had awakened, and they were hungry. The battle began like every battle against the Drakh. Chaos, death, despair. Admiral Kira watched from the bridge of the Eternal Dawn as the Drakh swarm moved toward them. Thousands of organic ships, each one covered in teeth and claws and weapons that grew from living flesh. Clouds of smaller fighters surrounded them, like insects around a corpse. "All ships, hold formation," Kira ordered. "Fire at will." The Union fleet opened up with everything they had. Energy beams cut through space. Missiles exploded against Drakh hulls. Fighters launched from carrier bays and dove into the enemy swarm. It was not enough. It was never enough. For every Drakh ship they destroyed, 10 more took its place. For every fighter they shot down, 100 more appeared. The swarm was endless, a tide of hunger that could not be stopped. "Admiral," Len shouted from his station, "we have lost another 12 ships. Our line is breaking." Kira gripped her chair. They were dying. Again. Just like Valora 9. Just like every battle before. Then the human ships moved. Kira had expected them to form a defensive line. She had expected them to protect the retreating Union vessels, to buy time for evacuation. That was what any sane commander would do. But the humans did not do what sane commanders would do. They charged. 47 ships flew directly into the heart of the Drakh swarm. Not slowly, not carefully. They accelerated to speeds that should have torn them apart, weaving through the enemy formation like water through rocks. "What are they doing?" Len whispered. Kira said nothing. She just watched. The human ships were fast. Faster than anything Kira had ever seen. They spun and rolled and twisted through the Drakh formation, dodging fire that should have killed them 100 times over. Their own weapons fired constantly, but they were not aiming at the Drakh ships. They were aiming at specific targets. Small openings in the Drakh hulls. Weak points that no other species had ever found. And they were not firing weapons. They were firing something else. Tiny capsules flew from the human ships and disappeared into the Drakh vessels. Dozens of them. Then hundreds. Then thousands. "Admiral Kira." General Bora's voice came through the communication system. She sounded calm, like she was ordering coffee instead of fighting for her life. "We have delivered the first wave of payloads. I suggest you pull your remaining ships back to a safe distance. 1. What did you fire at them? Something they will not enjoy." Kira was about to ask another question when something strange happened. A Drakh ship near the center of the swarm stopped moving. Then another. Then another. Within minutes, the entire swarm had gone silent. "What is happening?" Len asked. "Why have they stopped?" Kira looked at the tactical display. The Drakh ships were still there, but they were not attacking. They were not moving. They were just drifting. Then the screaming started. It came through every communication channel, a sound that no species had ever heard before. Millions of Drakh voices, crying out in terror and confusion and pain. They were not words. The Drakh did not use words. But the meaning was clear. They were afraid. "The virus has taken hold," Bora reported. "Their neural network is collapsing. They can no longer communicate or coordinate. Each Drakh is now trapped in its own nightmare, fighting enemies that exist only in its mind." Kira watched in horror as the Drakh swarm began to destroy itself. Ships crashed into each other. Fighters attacked their own carriers. The great hive ships, each 1 kilometers long, started to convulse like dying animals. "You poisoned their minds," Kira said. "Yes, that is..." "Yes," Bora agreed. "It is. Now hit them while they are blind." Kira hesitated for only a moment. Then she turned to her officers. "All ships, advance. Target the larger vessels. Destroy everything that moves." The Union fleet surged forward. For the first time in the war, they were not running. They were hunting. The battle lasted 3 hours. By the end, the greatest Drakh armada in recorded history had been reduced to drifting wreckage. Billions of creatures floated dead in the void. The survivors, those few who had not killed themselves or each other, fled into the darkness of deep space. When it was over, Kira sat alone in her quarters and stared at the wall. She had won. The Union had won. But the victory tasted like ash in her mouth. Her door chimed. She did not answer, but it opened anyway. General Bora walked in, still wearing her combat uniform. "You should be celebrating," Bora said. "Your people are saved. My people are saved because you did something terrible." "Yes." Kira looked at the human. Bora was not tall. She was not physically impressive. She looked like a tired woman who had not slept in days. But her eyes were old. So much older than her face. "How do you live with it?" Kira asked. "How do you do such horrible things and still call yourself civilized?" Bora sat down across from her. "We do not call ourselves civilized. We never have. Civilization is a mask we wear so that others feel comfortable around us. Then what are you? Survivors." Bora leaned forward. "My species has been fighting for survival since before we had words. We fought the cold. We fought the heat. We fought animals that wanted to eat us and diseases that wanted to kill us. And when we ran out of other enemies, we fought each other. That is not something to be proud of. No, it is not. Bora stood up and walked to the viewport. But it made us what we are. It taught us that there is no line we will not cross to protect our own. No weapon too terrible. No tactic too cruel. When humanity is threatened, we become exactly what our enemies fear. Monsters. Yes. Bora turned back to face Kira. But we are your monsters now, and we will never let the Drakh touch you again. Kira did not know what to say. Part of her was disgusted by what the humans had done. But another part, a larger part, was grateful. The war was not over. The Drakh would regroup. They would attack again. But now, for the first time, the galaxy had hope, because the monsters were on their side. The war lasted 7 months. After the first victory at Valora, the Drakh tried to regroup. They gathered new forces from the edges of their territory. They adapted. They evolved. But everywhere they went, the humans were waiting for them. General Bora led her fleet across the galaxy, striking at Drakh strongholds before they could become threats. She lost ships. She lost friends. She lost pieces of herself that she would never get back. But she never stopped fighting. Commander Han Te became the face of humanity to the other species. He negotiated treaties. He answered questions. He showed the galaxy that humans were not just weapons to be pointed at enemies. They were people, with dreams and hopes and fears like everyone else. Colonel Jin Hyuk died in the Battle of the Corvani border, ramming his damaged ship into a Drakh hive carrier to save a transport full of refugees. Commander Nari developed new tactics that combined human aggression with Union technology. Her strategies saved millions of lives. And slowly, painfully, the war turned. The Drakh collective, fractured and confused, began to retreat. They pulled back to the outer reaches of the galaxy, to dark spaces between stars where no one would follow them. They would remain a threat for generations, but the immediate danger had passed. The galaxy had survived. 7 months after the first human ship crossed the quarantine zone, representatives of 37 species gathered on Valora Prime. It was the largest diplomatic summit in galactic history, and at the center of it all were the humans who had saved them. Admiral Kira stood at a podium in the Great Hall, looking out at faces of every shape and color. Some had scales. Some had feathers. Some had things that no human word could describe. But all of them were looking at the same place. The human delegation sat at the front of the hall. General Bora, her uniform covered in medals she had never asked for. Commander Han Te, looking uncomfortable in his formal clothes. And behind them, the crews of the surviving human ships, 47 vessels reduced to 31. "We are here today," Kira began, "to honor those who saved us. 7 months ago, the Galactic Union faced extinction. Our fleets were destroyed. Our allies had abandoned us. We had nowhere to turn." She paused, letting the words sink in. "And then we did something that many thought was madness. We contacted a species that we had locked away for 200 years. A species that we feared. A species that we called monsters." The hall was silent. They had every reason to hate us. We had imprisoned them. We had forgotten them. We had treated them as criminals for crimes committed by their ancestors. And yet, when we called for help, they answered. Kira turned to face the human delegation. "You saved us. Not because you owed us anything. Not because you would gain anything. You saved us because that is who you are. You protect those who cannot protect themselves, even when those people do not deserve your protection." She bowed, a gesture of deep respect in her culture. "On behalf of the Galactic Union, I thank you. And I apologize for everything we did to your people." General Bora stood and walked to the podium. She looked small next to Kira, but no one in the hall thought she was weak. "Admiral Kira," Bora said, "we did not come here for thanks. We came here for something else. Name it. Freedom." Bora looked out at the assembled delegates. "For 200 years, our people have been prisoners. Our children have grown up staring at stars they could never visit. Our scientists have made discoveries they could never share. Our artists have created works that no one else would ever see. She took a deep breath. We want that to end. We want to be part of the galaxy again. Not as monsters, not as weapons, but as people. Equal members of this union, with all the rights and responsibilities that come with it. Kira nodded. The union has already voted. The quarantine is lifted. Humanity is free. A sound went through the human delegation. Some of them laughed. Some of them cried. Tay covered his face with his hands, his shoulders shaking. There is one more thing, Kira said. Some members of the Union are still afraid of you. They remember the stories. They remember the wars. They worry that you will turn your weapons against us someday. Bora met her eyes. They are right to be afraid. We are dangerous. That is not something we can change or hide. Humanity has a darkness inside it that we will never fully escape. Then how can we trust you? You cannot. Bora stepped closer to Kira. Trust is earned, not given. It takes time and patience and proof. We will have to show you, again and again, that we can be trusted, and some of you will never believe it. No matter what we do. She extended her hand, palm up. But we can start here. Today. With a promise. Kira looked at the hand. Such a strange gesture. So simple. So human. What promise? That we will stand with you. Not as servants or soldiers, but as friends. That when darkness comes, we will face it together. That we will never abandon you. As long as you never abandon us. Kira reached out with her foreleg and placed it against Bora's palm. The hall erupted in noise. Some cheered. Some gasped. Some simply watched in wonder. Welcome to the galaxy. Humanity, Kira said. Bora smiled. It was a tired smile, worn thin by months of war and years of waiting. It is good to finally be home. Outside the Great Hall, the human ships held formation in orbit around Valora Prime. 31 vessels, battered and scarred, their hulls marked by the damage of 100 battles. They were not beautiful. They were not elegant, but they were unbroken. In the captain's quarters of the Hammer of Soul, Commander Nari stood at the viewport and looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, her parents had dreamed of visiting those lights. Her grandparents had told stories about them. Generations of her family had lived and died wondering what lay beyond the prison walls of their solar system. Now she knew, and she would make sure that her children, and their children, and all the children who came after, would never have to wonder again. The stars were waiting, and humanity was ready to explore them.